As we continue to reflect on Arsenal's loss to Aston Villa yesterday, the emotions linger like a heavy cloud that refuses to clear. Because defeats like this are not simple moments that pass quickly, they stay with us, replaying in our minds like a loop we cannot escape, reminding us of the moments that slipped away, the chances that went begging, and the small details that made the difference. And the more we think about it, the more it becomes clear that this wasn't just any loss. It was a reminder of how ruthless the Premier League can be, how even the smallest lapse in concentration can undo 90 minutes of hard work, discipline, and tactical intention. And as Arsenal fans, we carry that burden deeply because we know the potential of this squad. We know what they are capable of. We know the quality they possess, which is why defeats like this hurt even more, because they feel avoidable. They feel like missed moments that should have been sealed, controlled, and converted into 3 points that reinforce momentum and strengthen belief. But instead, we're left here trying to make sense of how a match that looked manageable suddenly slipped away, leaving us searching for answers in every replayed moment, every misplaced pass, every defensive rotation that came half a second too late. And while we acknowledge Aston Villa's effort, intensity, and determination, we also recognize that Arsenal are at a stage where such setbacks must be carefully analyzed, not to point fingers or direct blame, but to grow, refine, and elevate the collective strength of the team. Because progress is never linear, and even the strongest teams face nights where everything feels off rhythm, where creativity doesn't flow, where finishing feels rushed, and where confidence seems to flicker under pressure. And as painful as these matches are to watch, they reveal something important. The true character of a team is not shown in the victories, but in how they handle the setbacks, how they respond to adversity, how they channel frustration into determination, and how they transform disappointment into fuel that drives them forward with renewed purpose. And as we look ahead, we must remember that this Arsenal side has shown immense growth over the past seasons, overcoming challenges, silencing critics, and proving that they belong at the top of English football. And if we learned anything from this defeat, it is that the journey is far from over, because this team still has everything to fight for: the league, pride, momentum, and the belief that they are capable of achieving greatness, but only if they rise from this moment with greater unity, sharper focus, and stronger desire to put things right on the pitch. And the responsibility is shared by everyone: the players, who must convert chances, defend with greater concentration, and maintain intensity for the full 90 minutes, the coaches, who must adapt faster, prepare better, and make decisive changes when needed, and the fans, who must continue to believe, support, and push the team forward even in the darkest moments. Because Arsenal is more than a club. It is a family, a tradition, a source of emotion that runs deep within millions of hearts around the world. And defeats like this, as painful as they are, cannot and will not extinguish the fire that burns inside the Arsenal faithful, a fire that has carried us through seasons tougher than this and will continue to carry us through the battles that lie ahead. And so, as we continue processing this disappointing loss to Aston Villa, we must hold on to the belief that this team will respond, they will regroup, they will refine their approach, and they will step onto the pitch in the next match with renewed determination to correct the mistakes that cost them. Because champions are not defined by perfection, they're defined by resilience. And Arsenal now have the chance to show what kind of team they truly are, not through words, but through actions, through performances, through the hunger and fight that must be displayed in every duel, every press, every run, and every shot. Because the road to success is paved with moments like this, moments that test your resolve, moments that expose your weaknesses, moments that force you to improve or fall behind. And Arsenal must choose improvement, must choose growth, must choose the mentality of relentless pursuit that separates contenders from winners. And as we stand together reflecting, hurting, and hoping, let this defeat be the spark that ignites a stronger second half of the season, one defined not by setbacks, but by comebacks, not by frustration, but by determination, not by disappointment, but by belief. The belief that Arsenal can and will rise again, stronger, sharper, and more united than ever. And when we look closely at how Arsenal were playing yesterday against Aston Villa, the highlights tell a story of a team that tried to impose their identity but struggled to find the sharpness, rhythm, and execution that normally define their performances. Because from the opening minutes, Arsenal attempted to control possession, push Villa back, and dictate the tempo with quick passing between the lines, shifting the ball from one flank to the other, searching for openings in Villa's compact defensive structure. But even though the intentions were clear, the final actions often lacked the precision needed to break down a disciplined opponent. And there were moments where Arsenal built beautifully from the back, with Saliba and Gabriel stepping forward confidently, Zinchenko drifting into midfield to create overloads, Rice dropping deeper to connect play, and Odegaard pushing into advanced pockets to orchestrate attacks. Yet Villa's pressing forced Arsenal into difficult positions, sometimes rushing passes, sometimes slowing down their natural flow, and you could see that despite the possession dominance, the transitions were not as sharp as usual, the combinations not as fluid, and the timing slightly off, creating a sense of frustration both on the pitch and in the stands, because Arsenal had spells of control without truly hurting Villa in the key zones. And when the ball reached the wings, Saka and Martinelli fought hard to create openings, driving at defenders, cutting inside, looking for shooting lanes or link-up opportunities. But Villa doubled up on them, forcing them wide or shutting down their angles, making every action feel like a battle instead of the free, expressive football Arsenal normally produce. And in the midfield, Rice and Odegaard tried to quicken the tempo, switching play rapidly and attempting to stretch Villa's backline, yet the vertical passes lacked their usual bite. The runs in behind were either mistimed or well tracked by the Villa defense, and the final third presence felt slightly disconnected, as if the team was one step away from full synchronization. And defensively, Arsenal had moments of strength, winning duels, intercepting passes, and controlling the space between the lines, but the danger always felt present because Villa were patient, waiting for mistakes, looking for transitional moments where swift forward passes could exploit Arsenal's defensive gaps. And when those moments came, they were clinical, punishing Arsenal in a way that shifted the entire momentum of the match. And the highlight sequences reveal that Arsenal had several promising chances too. Quick 1-2s around the box, crosses fizzing dangerously across the 6-yard area, shots blocked by desperate Villa defending, and moments where the entire stadium felt the breakthrough was seconds away. But football is unforgiving, and when those chances fail to convert, the pressure builds, the frustration grows, and confidence begins to flicker, especially in a match of such high stakes. And throughout the game, Jesus worked tirelessly, dropping deep to link play, spinning into channels, combining with Saka and Odegaard, but his finishing touch eluded him, with shots blocked, headers deflected, or angles closed down by Martinez, who added his usual time-wasting and gamesmanship, further disrupting Arsenal's rhythm. And while Arsenal continued pushing forward, the lack of decisive quality in the final third felt like the missing ingredient that could have changed everything. Because the build-up was there, the effort was there, the control was there, but the clinical edge was not. And in matches like this, that single detail becomes the entire story. And as the minutes passed, Arsenal's urgency increased. Players took more risks, fullbacks pushed higher, midfielders sprinted into the box, and shots were taken from wider angles. Yet nothing seemed to fall in their favor, as if the football gods themselves were determined to deny Arsenal on this night. And when Villa countered, the gaps left behind became dangerous, pulling Arsenal's shape out of balance and creating the openings that led to decisive moments. And despite all the effort, all the possession, and all the pressure, the highlights show a team that played with heart, but not with the sharpness required to win such a difficult match. A team that fought, but lacked the killer instinct. A team that built opportunities, but couldn't transform them into goals. And in the end, that is what defined the performance. Not the lack of effort, not the lack of commitment, but the lack of execution in the most important areas of the pitch. And Arsenal will know that. Arteta will know that. And the players will feel it deeply, because the highlights reveal a match that slipped through their fingers,